All right, welcome to the first video of this series. So we're going to be covering MeshSpace versus LocalSpace in this one. It's actually a fairly simple concept to understand, but it can be difficult to grasp the first time. Once you get past that brick wall, you'll be able to understand it. And I will point out that I am aware that the elbows are pointy. That's being caused by the corrective bones because I'm using the UE5 Mani, not the UE5 Simple. I'll go over that in a later video and I'll fix it as well for this project. But anyway, let's get started. So MeshSpace versus LocalSpace. I specifically chose these examples to showcase the differences here. And so I'll go ahead and actually break it down to you in a primitive way. I'll just drag out a box here and I'll drag out a cone. And I'm going to attach this cone to the cube. Now you could pretend that this, let's actually zero out the origin. You could pretend that this cube right here is a bone, maybe the body, and you can pretend that this is the arm or the head. And if I want to rotate something relative to something else or local, if we're using LocalSpace, if we're applying an additive in LocalSpace, then it's basically the same thing as doing this here. So right now I'm rotating this relative to this box right here. And so if I rotate this box, you'll see that this cone right here maintains its offset. So this cone's orientation is in relation to this. But if I was using MeshSpace, then this cone's rotation would be relative to the world and not the cone. So that's basically MeshSpace versus LocalSpace. And I'll further demonstrate that over here on this display. And so if we just go ahead and simulate, you can play or simulate, it doesn't matter. But you'll see that this one right here is local. And so the hand is rotated in relation to the forearm. And so when the forearm moves, it maintains that rotation relative to the forearm as the forearm moves. However, in this one right here, we're applying it in MeshSpace. And so the hand is rotating, basically you can think of it as rotating in relation to the root bone, since the root bone is the top of the hierarchy. And so you'll see that it maintains its rotation in relation to the mesh rather than the forearm it's connected to. But it'll still move with the forearm because it's connected to it. So all of these bones in this chain are actually rotating in relation to the mesh and maintaining the rotation in relation to the mesh rather than their parent bones. And that's the reason why when we apply things in MeshSpace to the hands, we can get unwanted problems because it'll move in funny ways like this. A lot of people don't really understand why. I hope this helps you understand why now. I will show you over here at the end. We're not covering this, but on the dynamic additive layering, I set up an example where it showcases the same issues can be caused on the legs. So because the rotation is in relation to the leg, if the leg is rotated in one direction or the other, then the bone that's connected to it, since it's additively added to it in LocalSpace, it'll maintain that local offset no matter which direction we rotate this bone. And so for the legs, it can cause issues where the legs are shifted to one side or the other, like it is on this one. However, on this one, we're using MeshSpace, and so it's maintaining its rotation in relation to the mesh and not its parent bone. So on body animations from the pelvis down, it's almost always the case that we apply in MeshSpace. I will add levels later on, like a use case level, and I'll try to come up with a way to maybe showcase when you might want to apply an additive on the legs in LocalSpace, if I can think of a situation where you might want to do that. Probably like maybe a kicking or something, but I doubt even a kicking you would want to be in LocalSpace. I'll try to think of maybe some scenario where you would want to do that. But basically, just a rule of thumb, if you're applying it to the body, it's almost always going to be in MeshSpace. If you're applying it to the arms, it may be MeshSpace, it may be LocalSpace. If it's an aim offset, we want it to be in MeshSpace because we want it to be aiming in that direction, in that exact direction on the animation. Otherwise, he may be aiming off to the left or the right. If we have it in LocalSpace, he may be aiming off to the left or the right, and so the gun alignment won't match the cursor reticule on the screen, and so that's why we would apply the arms in MeshSpace when using an aim offset. But that's it for this video, guys. The next video I'll cover additive animations, and I will see you then.